Hi class, I'm making this video to help you with a tricky part in the tutorial found on page 89-90 where we load in the linear data from one feature class to another. And I added a little FYI, but honestly the problem I think comes really at the end of page 90 where it says your turn. And it tells you to repeat the process for values of 2 and 9. It would be helpful if it had a step-by-step for that maybe, but then also important, when you do it for subsequent values, you also need to make a selection. When you run the append tool the first time, what gets appended is kind of where the line code was equal to 1, so you can set that to equal lot, the text LOT, without having to select a subset of the new feature class features. You just take them all. But later, when you add in line code equals 2, line code equals 9, you do have to make that selection. So it's a little bit different, perhaps a little bit trickier. So I'm going to go through that process here. In my table of contents over here, I've got the property ownership, which is the only thing displaying now, but that's polygon. We're going to be working with the lines, so this parcel line source and the lot boundaries. What I'll do first is open up the attribute tables. So first for parcel line source, we have 40,763 features. And at least in the first few, we can see line code values of 1 and 2. There are some with 9, but not very many. Can't really scroll for that. Remember the number 40,763. We'll really write it down. It's hard to remember that. But take note of it. We'll try to remember it and make reference to it as we go through. And now if I open up the attribute table for lot boundaries, which is loading, in lot boundary, we have no features. We have it all set up, but there's nothing actually in it. 0 out of 0 selected. So by the end of these steps, we want, in lot boundaries, 40,763 features. And we'll get it bit by bit. So the tutorial has you go to use the append tool. We'll open that up. The input data set here is going to be parcel line source. So we're taking out the information, the features from parcel line source, and we're going to put it, the target data set should be lot boundaries, but we're going to get it bit by bit. So we're going to get from parcel line source all the line code 1 features, and then all the line code 2 features. And then finally all the line code 9 features. And we have kind of a way to select those in here using the expression where line code is equal to 1. We'll start off there. For field matching type, we can use the field map to reconcile field differences. This is a little different from the book. It's the same thing, but it looks a little different, just different version of ARC. Right now we set that up a little different. The field has no sources, so we click the pencil to edit. It opens up this field properties. So from line code, it's going to take the first instance found of line code. We just select line code right here, put OK. Now we don't have the warning anymore. And let's give it a try. Run. Took me a few seconds. So now, if I go over to lot boundaries and wait a second, if you don't see a change, maybe close it, open up the table again. But after a second, I see now there are 23,683 features. So with a little bit more than half, I have the line code of 1. And I can see if I change the sort from ascending to descending, yeah, all the line codes are 1. Now, the reason we're doing this is to change how line code information is stored. Really just the data type. Here it's 1, it's an integer. We want it to be a text string. We want it to be LOT for line code 1. So making sure I don't have any features selected here, we're working with them all. I'm going to right-click the column name and go to Calculate Field. It gives a little note, this tool modifies the input table. Good. We're working in lot boundaries, and we're going to calculate line code as quote, LOT, quote. This is, as the book says, it's just a text string instead of an integer. OK. And here we go. We've got those values. So that's all set, but we only have 23,000, and we need to get to 40-something. So with the append tool still open, we can change that 1 to a 2 right here in the expression, and that's all we need to do. I'm going to run it again. Now, if I go back to the table for lot boundaries, I can see at the bottom here it says 0 out of 40,600 something selected. So we're almost to 40,700 something. And if I switch the line codes, I can see now we have our 2's in there. So I want these rows to have a line code value of row, or ROW. But I don't want to change the ones we put in earlier with lot. So what do I do now? I use Select by Attributes. The button's right here. We want a new selection where line code is equal to the number 2. If I click Apply or OK, it will select some records, almost 17,000, so not quite half. And it's these that we want to use Calculate Field to change. So instead of lot, I'm going to type in ROW row. And there we go. Now we have lots, we have rows, but we don't have any more 2's. Good. Done with that, I'm going to return to the Append tool. I'm going to change the 2 to a 9. Click Run. And here we go. If we look down at the total number of features, 40,763, we're finally at the same number as the source. We've got them all. You can see them right up here. So similar to last time with the 2's, I'm going to select by attribute. I'm just going to change the 2 to a 9 in this expression. We've got 91 features selected. I'm going to right-click line code again, Calculate Field, and I'll change the line code to split. And there we go. So now we've got the same information as we had in line source within lot boundaries, but we have the line code expressed as a text string instead of a number. That's it. It's not too complicated overall in terms of kind of the concepts at work, what needed to be done. How does the output look like versus the input? But it's back and forth. We need to be careful about remembering what features we're working with. We have selected that we are appending at any given point in time, and then handle them all so that none are double counted and that all of them have their line code value changed from a number to a text string. As you're going through this, feel free to just follow these steps. I can post a typed out version of them as well. And then also just make sure you keep an eye on the number of features you have in lot boundaries. If you run append over and over, or more than one time, without reverting the changes, you can do that if you enable undo next to the run button down here in the bottom right. Make sure you don't go above 40,763. And if you run append a few times, you definitely will. Good luck.